The U.S. is a wonderfully diverse country filled with a variety of fishing opportunities to satisfy any angler or fish enthusiast. But that doesn't mean that the entire country is a fisherman's paradise. In fact, a large portion of the western United States is largely inhospitable when it comes to habitat for fish and other aquatic creatures. The western half of Utah is part of the Great Basin Desert. And while the Great Salt Lake and many surrounding wetlands are found in this region, that doesn't necessarily equate to there being many fish, as the salinity levels of this region are far from habitable for really any fish species or any aquatic life for that matter, other than the tiny brine shrimp. That being said, there are a few small isolated reservoirs with sport fish like largemouth bass, bluegill, rainbow trout, and tiger trout. This would include places like Grantsville Reservoir and Vernon Reservoir. There are also remote isolated springs that contain native fish with populations of speckled dace, Utah chub, and least chub. Perhaps the most well-known fish in this region, which is both a sport fish and a native fish, is the Bonneville cutthroat trout, which can be found in the remote Deep Creek mountain range near the Utah-Nevada border. Another potential fishing destination is Blue Lake, which is also right on the border with Nevada, just south of Wendover. Due to the year-round warm waters, this lake is habitable to a variety of species that otherwise wouldn't survive the cold winters of this region. Fish like tilapia, red devil cichlids, jeweled cichlids, and a few species of killifish. All of these fish are illegal introductions, but nonetheless they are now established, and they really don't pose much of a threat because they can't invade anywhere beyond this isolated hot spring. Despite the bleak appearance of this barren landscape, there are some small pockets of life surviving in Utah's West Desert, and while there are a few select areas that you could go fish, they are few and far. Venturing further west into the Great Basin Desert, central Nevada is extremely dry and has only a handful of small reservoirs. South Fork, Rye Patch Reservoir, Ruby Lake, Willow Creek Reservoir, and Wild Horse Reservoir being some of the most popular. Fishing is also an option on the Humboldt River, which spans a good portion of this region. You could definitely have an enjoyable time at some of these places, but it's unlikely that you would go out of your way to plan a fishing trip there. Outside of central Nevada and even further west, there are perhaps some more desirable fishing opportunities nearing the Nevada-California border. Lahontan Reservoir and Pyramid Lake are both great fishing destinations. Pyramid Lake in particular is a famous fishing destination for the Lahontan cutthroat trout, the biggest of all the cutthroat trout species. So even though Nevada is the driest state in the US, and fishing opportunities are extremely limited, there are still places to fish. And really, I think that there is something really neat to fishing in a small oasis surrounded by miles and miles of desert. It just makes the fish there all the more incredible. While central Nevada is dry and barren, southeastern California takes it to a whole nother level. This is a map from California's official fishing guide website. And you can see that basically the entire Mojave Desert region in the southeast corner is void of any marked fishing locations. And if you zoom in on a satellite map, it's pretty self-explanatory why. This region is absent of water in really any shape or form, and it is inhospitable to most forms of life. Death Valley holds the record for the hottest temperature ever recorded on Earth, at 134 degrees Fahrenheit. The far extremities of this Mojave Desert region do have some fishing opportunities, with the Colorado River and Lake Havasu on the California-Arizona border. Lake Havasu is actually a pretty fantastic fishery with a variety of warm water species. In fact, the world record red ear sunfish was actually caught at this reservoir. Heading west across this desert from Lake Havasu, fishing only becomes an option when you reach the mountains and begin to finally have some streams and reservoirs. Arizona is known for being dry and hot, but the bottom third portion of the state is especially limited in terms of fishing. Most of this area is the Sonoran Desert, another one of the hottest deserts on Earth. The stereotypical cacti used to portray desert landscapes comes from this area, and it is not a landscape typically associated with fishing at all. However, there are a few bodies of water that could potentially be fished, such as Patagonia Lake, which has catfish, bass, and trout, and some panfish. A bit further northeast is the town of Cactus Flat, which has Roper Lake, which holds a very similar variety of species. The city of Tucson probably has the most fishing opportunities in this area, with a handful of community ponds scattered throughout the city. Other than that, you might be able to find a small stream in some of the mountain ranges, but the region is really quite desolate when it comes to water or fish of any kind. Further east into southern New Mexico and West Texas, fishing really doesn't get any better. In fact, it might even be worse. There are numerous counties within this region that literally don't have a single river, stream, pond, or lake. On the far southern border of West Texas, you have the Rio Grande River, which does have a large variety of species. And on the Texas-New Mexico border, you have Red Bluff Reservoir, which has white bass, largemouth, and wiper. Coming out of this reservoir, further up north into New Mexico is the Pecos River, and going south into the Texas Panhandle is Lake Balmorhea. But aside from those few select places, you're really going to have a tough time finding anywhere to fish, making this portion of the country one of the least desirable for people who like to fish. This is a map that I made highlighting each of the general regions all combined into one, hopefully giving you a bigger picture of what all these places look like combined on a countrywide scale. I found it kind of neat that even as I listed the details on the worst places to fish in the country, that there are still some opportunities, however limited they may be. Going into making this video, my thought was that I would highlight the places in the US that absolutely nobody would ever want to go fish. But by the time I completed this video, I found myself more curious and more excited than ever before to go explore these areas and fish some of these remote reservoirs and streams. I just think that fish and fishing in the desert are so cool, but maybe that's just me. If you want to see a video detailing and ranking the top 10 states for fishing, I recently made a video on that, and you can check that out here. Please also consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I hope to see you on the next one.